The Real Talent Podcast is brought to you by The Agency, Australia's real estate. Welcome to the Real Talent Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Wood from The Agency, and this podcast is where we deep dive into the minds of Australia's top performing agents with one focus: listing strategy. From winning the appraisals to mastering vendor communication, we break down exactly how the best in the business are securing more listings and growing their market share. No fluff, no guesswork, just real insights, real tactics, and real results, straight from the agents who are doing it every day. Let's get started. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode of the Real Talent Podcast. I'm Michael Wood, your host, joined today by what I believe to be probably one of the fastest rising stars in Victorian real estate. You could probably say Australian real estate. Tai Menahem from Buxton. Tai, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, mate. So some stats for the listeners just so they can get a grasp as to what we're dealing with here. You're 25?
Yes. Yeah.
Been in real estate how many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And how many transactions
Roughly
over the last
80.
12 months?
Yeah, roughly 80.
80 transactions.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about a marketplace here where the average sale price is 400,000 or 500,000. You've got an average sale price of north of $1 million.
Yeah, circa 1-2, give or take.
Yep. And mate, delving straight into it, I mean, as a younger agent, your progression was very quick through the ranks, and your ability to write business, secure listings, I guess probably fast-tracked a lot more than the average agent. What would you put that down to?
Oh, look, I don't think there's a secret sauce, to be honest. Long nights, a lot of hours, not many days off, and lots of hair being pulled out. Like it was, just pure grit, to be honest. That's literally it. More calls than anyone else in the office. That was always a really big target for me. Be there the last one, be there the first one, and make sure that I had more appraisals than anyone else.
Okay, so coming back to calls, let's start with that.
Yeah.
What was your process in terms of who are you calling?
Yeah, so look, at the start, I was sort of machine gunning everything. So we had, at the way that our office is sort of based, we're based in Ashburton, but we've got Chadstone, which we did a lot in at the time, and then Ashwood. So there was a lot of areas that I was just trying to get something out of.
Yep.
And then the boys in the office sort of pushed me towards Chadstone. They, still learning my craft, I guess you could call it.
Yep.
We didn't have probably very little market share at the time. I think the top agent had sold like 90 properties at the time. Next agent had sold one. So I was literally just stalking this guy. It was a guy from Ray White. Everything that he had listed, I was calling as if it was my own, calling the streets, the just solds, all of that, and just trying to get something off the back of his.
And did you face a lot of rejection?
Oh, yeah, heaps. Yeah, I reckon I nearly quit 4 or 5 times. I went on a run. James from our office will tell you I was his PA and at the time, and I think I lost, it would have been maybe, 21 or 22 on the trot.
Yep.
Like in a 1 month.
That's resilience, man.
Yeah. Wow. I don't think it was on my own accord. I was forced to stay to a degree, but I thank him for it, but it was good.
So let's talk about how you break the mold of that. So you go from 21 or 22 listings, lost listings in a row. What do you think was the main factor in, I guess, turning that market share around and becoming the agent of choice within that Chadstone market?
Good question. I think a few things. Naturally, as you lose more, you learn more.
Yep.
The key one that I always was facing was age, naturally. And trying to overcome that. Like you're dealing with people's biggest assets in that marketplace. That's, people have been there for 30, 40 years. They're not moving very quickly. The decision means a lot. If you've got no track record, you're young, you're out of school, they can look down on you.
Yep.
And respectfully so. So trying to, I guess, overcome that was quite difficult initially. But likewise as well, I think the other side of it was I wasn't sure who I was as an agent. I think at the time I was still learning and still trying to be maybe someone else, people you listen to on podcasts and agents that you like.
Yeah.
To a point where I sort of just made the decision of, okay, well, this is who I'm competing with. What is my company, Buxton's differences, and where do I fit in that? And that sort of molded me into that agent. And then we were able to, I guess, really join in the age dynamic and who I am dynamic and put them together. And eventually you get one run, which leads into 2 runs, and then you get a bit of momentum, and then you have a sort of a case to plead.
Did you, from a training perspective, did you practice your listing presentations? Were you practicing scripts and dialogues? What was your method to improve your ability?
Mate, relentlessly.
Yeah.
Relentlessly. Yeah, mate, I would call, again, James from, he's now my co-director, but I was his PA. I would abuse his time. Like, I remember in COVID, I would organise Zooms and he'd be at Bunnings with his wife. And I'm like, mate, just give me a listing presentation. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like anyone in the office that would listen, I would do it. Like my girlfriend at the time, I'd pitch to her.
Yep.
She wouldn't know what questions to ask, but I'd just rehearse in the car. I wouldn't listen to music. Like, honestly, just lived and breathed, just trying to understand the process, the scripts, everything.
We had James Tossovin in for a previous episode, and he sort of mentioned, and we spoke about the fact that a lot of agents, and I'm sure you've heard it in your organisation, will say, well, it's such a contrived environment, practice listing presentation. So I wouldn't say that in a lounge room. And the reality is they're probably fearful of being judged by their peers. And I think that from my perspective over the years of real estate training is that that's where you, I guess, learn the most. Were you ever worried about that, or did you just put that aside and say, no, I need to get better. This is what I need to do?
Of course you are. But you'd stuff up in front of a vendor and there's 20, 30K on the line.
Yeah.
Versus you stuffing up in front of your colleagues and there's nothing on the line apart from just learning. I did both, and I can tell you stuffing up in front of colleagues, friends and family felt a lot better than stuffing up in front of an owner and going, God, I wish I did better.
So you really refined your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so breaking into that market, of course, obviously, so you now got the runs on the board. What are your listing sources or your proactive activities apart from calling or apart from door knocking that you're doing to try to find those leads?
Yeah, naturally, as you get busier, you get better, things change, structures change. So now I've gone from just myself, it's a team of 3 as well. So a lot of the door knocking I don't necessarily do anymore. Good or bad, I just found that I was always a lot better being in the office, calling clients. So my database, I get constant tasks through our CRM system.
Yep.
I'm prolific with that I don't leave anything overdue, like almost obsessive over it. When it blows up, I have full-on anxiety attacks.
Yep.
So most of it is just nurturing that. That is pretty much, I'd say 90% of my major lead sources is just database people I've been speaking to now for 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
The saying is, eventually it will come to a long term.
Yep.
You don't feel it initially, which is interesting and obviously quite frustrating because you're putting in all these hours. But like even in the last week, I think I've had 2 in the same streets that I've been speaking to for over 5 years that have decided, they're selling full ask, full fee, going with me.
That's it, mate. And I think that prospecting thing, we've learned it from so many agents in the past where there's not necessarily a quick fix to that prospecting. You have to maintain the relationship and you have to be consistent in maintaining that relationship. In terms of your prospecting methods, how do you time block that? Are you 20 calls a day? Do you prefer to make, I know James likes to do those large blocks of calls. How do you break that up?
Yeah, look, it's always hard. You have to have an ideal week, definitely. But again, like real estate's one of those worlds where you get a call, I'm selling, I can't see you any other time apart from in the next 20 minutes. Okay, right, I'm going, right?
Yep.
So there's certainly times within my week that I will try my best to just call, and that's Tuesdays, that's Wednesdays, that's Thursdays, and Fridays if I've got time. That will typically be there as well. Mondays mostly around sort of buyers and vendors.
Yep.
But it would certainly be just around those sort of time blocks initially.
And then when you were competing against more experienced agents or agents who had runs on the board, what would you say to vendors? What were your points of difference?
We're still competing with them.
But you've got the runs on the board now, so it's a bit different.
Look, I don't think, obviously things change. They're still at a certain price point, that cliche of you're too young to a degree. I try and lean a lot into being a director of the business now, which, I think takes a lot of the pressure off the age as well. Likewise, though, I have to be very smart in who I bring with me and if I bring someone with me, whereas a lot of the other agents can bring a team. The team that I have is sort of a similar age. So if you have 2 young bucks turning up at a $3 million listing, it's a little bit hard. So the pitch is really about how much we will care for them. The pitch is how important that business is for me. But, it is now leaning a lot more into that age to a degree, not necessarily saying, hey, I'm 25, but hey, I'm younger than these guys. That means I've got more time. I've got no responsibilities. I'm not at home at 5 o'clock, and I tell vendors, call me at 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
I'm answering the phone.
Yep.
I'm in the office earlier. I'm not playing golf on a Friday. all of those things that, some of those older agents may or may not be doing.
Yeah.
But if I can put it in that position and say, hey, real estate is a numbers game at its core.
Yep.
If I have the opportunity to call more buyers, which I will,
Yep.
and I'm going to speak to them more, that's going to in turn lead to more people through your home.
Sure. So you're leaning into the fact that, sure, I may not have the years of experience that the other agents do, but that's actually a benefit for you as a vendor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to spin it, mate. Well, not even spin it. It's the reality, is that a lot of agents or more experienced agents can fall into that complacency trap. And, I think that actually leaning into that, because I think the challenge is that what will happen is that you'll lose a listing and the vendor will say, well, look, we really liked you, but you're a little bit young, or you just didn't have the experience. So actually bringing that up and getting on the front foot, you're actually anticipating that question that the other agents may be.
Well, you're just nullifying it. Like, it's going to be used. I know it's going to be used. So if I can say, okay, before they bring it up and just say, hey, look, I understand that that's something, own that, because that's the truth, but it's actually a benefit to you. I'm going to call more people. This means more to me because I'm going to be here for the next 30 years. I'm not planning on retiring in the next 10. Which, whether they are or aren't, these competitors, it's still something that we can use.
I think it's the way that you articulate that as well, mate. I think it doesn't come across from an arrogant point of view. It comes across from a considered but, a quiet confidence in your own ability, which is great. You've obviously had a lot of success in Chadstone, and now certainly over the past probably 3 or 4 years, we competed against each other from a listing perspective. And I think I'm not sure what the strike rate was, but I think you won a few, I won a few. In terms of that, your focus on Chadstone, that's your core market, but now you're starting to sell a lot more in Ashburton, parts of Ashwood, and also Glen Iris as well. How important is that focus area versus trying to spread yourself across a number of suburbs?
Yeah. I have this conversation all the time with agents saying, is it important? Is it not? 100% important. Like, when you go to prospect, you're looking to prospect for next year and 2 years and 3 years down the track. Yes, you might get someone that might be selling immediately, but that's, as we all know, that's so rare. So if you have a marketplace which is yours and you're trying to dominate it, you'll have far more luck in 2 years and 3 years when all of those people remember you because you've continued to call them, as opposed to a sale here and a sale there and you've called them one time a year and then 2 years later you've remembered to call them. Just doesn't work. It's also hard to spread yourself that thin. Yeah. Like, imagine if you get busy, you've got to go to this suburb and then this suburb. Likewise, then as well, you talk about saturation. You can't prospect every suburb the way you'd want to. You don't know every sale. It's impossible to know. Yeah. So I focused on Chadstone initially, and that, I was an expert. I still am. Like, everything that moves in that market, I know of. Every buyer I know of. I made that religious for me. Yeah. So, if I did that for 5 suburbs, it would have been impossible. And I mean, a lot of agents, I think, do well in, if you work in a more expensive area, it's easier to move out because I think those vendors that move out think, well, I want the agent who sells the expensive houses to sell my home. But it's a much more challenging aspect to actually start out and move in. You've successfully done that through your movement from Chadstone into Ashburton and Glen Iris. What do you think has allowed you to do that and be successful from that out to in strategy? Yeah, it's an interesting one. Again, there's no special sauce, as I said. Yeah. A lot of losses initially. Yep. We're competing against probably, like in my opinion, in Boroondara, probably some of, if not the best agents, are all confined to 2 or 3 suburbs there. So it's very competitive, and we lost a lot initially. We still lose a lot to them as well. Like, we're not sitting here saying, oh, we've made it. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I think we had to move out to move in to get the runs on the boards. Naturally, there are certain pockets of Ashburton which strategically I ended up targeting, which had a bit of a crossover between Warrigal Road, so Chadstone and Ashburton. Yep. So we were able to use that, specialise in that pocket, and from that pocket, then you move into the next pocket and the next pocket, and it just builds on that. So strategically, just picking your mark, picking a core place that you were just going to be religious on, door knocking, prospecting, letterbox dropping. Eventually one gives and then another gives and a third one gives, and you've got a bit of momentum. Yep. If you compete with me in the Alamein pocket of Ashburton, to be honest with you, like the runs on the board there in comparison to any other agent, that's, tenfold for us.
That's a real strength for you. Yeah. Have you found that you've moved with your market? So have you found that Chadstone has, people will sell in Chadstone and want to move to Glen Iris or Ashburton or scale up, and that's then now rewarding you because you've serviced them from a Chadstone perspective.
100%. Seeing a lot of that at the moment, which is awesome. Like it wasn't something that a naive 19-year-old sort of thought. But it's awesome seeing the work that way where it's following the direction that you're wanting to be in as well.
Absolutely. What is from a pre-list perspective, what does your pre-listing setup look like?
Yep. So the pre-listing is it's changed over the years. Originally, it was a big folder. You knock on the door at 7 o'clock at night, or as late as possible, to show how hard you were working.
Strategies.
And sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. And you drop it at the door. Now it's a text. It's a bit of we have a thing called Engage. And we send that. So it's like a pre-list with some sales, some things we're going to talk about. I don't put commission in there or anything. And then, a big text saying, thanks for your call, et cetera, et cetera. I look forward to seeing you.
And once you're into the listing presentation, are you very structured in terms of would 9 out of 10 of your listing presentations look the same as to how you like to structure them? And what does that flow look like? Do you talk about timing first? Do you talk about marketing, costs associated with selling? How does that structure work for you?
You try, as you would know, you try and be relatively the same, but we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with emotions, sometimes multiple people, different emotions. So you've got to pick your mark. You've got to be somewhat of a chameleon, I think, and blend in. But a lot of the time I do try and structure it around timing. Timing leads me then into, the method of sale. That leads me then into costs, and then eventually into commission and how Buxton work and how I work and how the team works. And, then you lead into trying to close the deal.
Of course, absolutely. And then from a post-listing strategy, and when I say post-listing, I guess it's more post-appraisal or presentation. What are you doing if you haven't signed it up on the spot? What systems have you got in place in order to try to make sure you secure that home?
Depending on the owner, if I know that they're meeting agents after me, and I can't secure that listing on the spot, I'll always push for a second meeting. I'll come up with whatever excuse I need to come up with. Sometimes I'll just withhold marketing, for example, and say, look, let's tailor a marketing package to you. Is there a day that suits so we can come by maybe in 2 or 3 days? That gives me the opportunity to close when they're not seeing anyone else. If it's not that, it's a follow-up text that night. It's a call the following morning. Any questions? How's it feeling? If they have to meet some other people, great, cool. I'll call them in a couple of other days. I'm always trying to find then a reason to call that's not just, are you ready to make a decision? So, or something's just sold, or something's just put up for lease on the street, things like that gives you that initiative to call. But, you're not being annoying as well.
So you're trying to add value to the conversation rather than just saying, have you made a decision?
How annoying is that?
No, I think it's very annoying, mate. There's always a fine line. One of the lines, or I guess sayings that I've heard in the past, which I actually haven't figured out whether I like it or not, is the agent will say to the vendor, there's a fine line between hassle and hustle, and I don't want to be hassling you, but I want to show you I'm enthusiastic. And I think there's
it's a good line.
It's not too bad, is it? I think it's the way you say it. I think you can't just stop at hassle and hustle. You have to actually expand on it a little bit. But I think you want to show that you're eager. Likewise, you actually want to show that you're also being able to listen to that vendor, because there's multiple times that I've been to a listening presentation with someone and the vendor said, look, I need a few days to think about it. Don't call me. I just want the weekend. And then you speak to the agent. They say, I just called them on the weekend just to see how they were going. And you think, hang on, did you listen? Like, they don't want you to call them. I listed a property last year where the vendor said exactly that. They said, I explained to the agents what I wanted. You were the only one who didn't call me over the weekend because I actually said that I didn't. So to me, you showed me that you'd actually listened to what I was after, and we listed that property on the Monday. Doesn't always work that way, but in that situation, it worked quite well. What do you think, from your perspective, what would you think a couple of the reasons that agents lose listings are?
I think you've nailed one of them bang on, and that is not listening. We have this, and I think, a lot of the junior agents want to make it early, quick. So they learn all the scripts and then they just want to spitball them all at the owners. But they don't really need to sometimes as well, right? There's scripts and then there's actual dialogue and you're having a conversation with a human. We're there to service them. So I always go by the rule of, if you have a cup of water and they've got a cup of water, theirs should be full and yours should be empty, meaning they're talking the whole time and you're listening. So a lot of the most powerful listing presentations I've had is I'm just giving them one-word questions. Why? How come? When? Things like that, and they just divulge. Whereas some people they just want to say what they think is going to get across so well, but the owner's not even remotely there.
Yeah.
So 2 ears, one mouth. I think that's a major thing. I think a lot of people lose listings as well because they are looking for that quick fix, that sugar rush of getting a listing right now, where sometimes the nurturing of 3 months or 6 months will get you a better fee and get you the better deal, but some of them just drop off the second call or third call.
Yeah. So they lack that persistence
Yeah.
in terms of the process. Moving off track a little bit, you're an auctioneer.
Yeah.
And I note that in your marketplace, particularly in the Glen Iris area, I mean, I was an auctioneer, but Jesse Matthews doesn't auction property himself, nor does Zaley, who are both phenomenal agents. Do you use that to your advantage, or do you try to bring that up in listing presentations?
100%. You've got to use your weapons.
Sell what you've got.
You have. Yeah, absolutely. Like they are very tough to beat. Highest respect for both of them.
Yep.
But yeah, you've got to find your differences as an auctioneer, as you would know.
Yep.
The sellies, I'm meeting those buyers for 4 weeks on auction day. I know what they like, what they don't like. If I need to spend 40 minutes there just grinding it out, I know that they have an extra 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 left, whatever it might be.
Yep.
As opposed to, and we've been there ourselves, you're an auctioneer, you're getting paid, you've got nothing to do with the property campaign. You turn up on the day, you have a quick glance, you're getting paid either way, and then you're out of there.
I think it comes back down to how you say it a lot of the time as well, because I think, like, I know that you're comfortable sitting here saying, this is what I say in a listing presentation. And I'm sure that, other agents that we speak to would be comfortable in saying the same. But it all comes down to actually how you deliver that to the vendor, the pace at which you deliver it, I guess the way you express yourself, your energy. James, who we had on for one of our previous podcasts, his energy, you can just tell why people list with him.
Yeah.
He's energetic. He, you're never thinking, oh, gee, this guy's not interested. Yeah. He seems interested the whole time. And I think a lot of the scripts and dialogues, be it auctioneering, be it a younger agent trying to break into a market, it's how you convey yourself to that client. Do you sort of take stock before you go into listings? Have you found yourself, listings in the past thinking, gee, actually, I could have said that better? Or did you try to reset before you go into those listing presentations?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You have to. Like, it's an interview. You're pitching for business. If you're walking in unprepared, you're walking in not sure how you're going to articulate yourself or who you're even going to be dealing with and how you're going to present yourself, you're walking in blind. So a lot of my pre-list, if you're going back even to that, I'll spend a lot of time on the phone with the owners even before we meet, and I'll get as much information as possible. My rule of thumb is if I can keep them on the phone for as long as possible, I think I'll be in pole position to get the listing. Now that's not always the case, but what that does is it gives me the opportunity then to know who I'm dealing with, right? Like some vendors need a real polished agent, suit and tie, briefcase walking in, and you look a bit like a wanker, but they need that professionalism, right? And you're going through all the data and everything. Some don't. They want it full casual. Doesn't need to be so professional. You're sort of tapering a lot back. And then again, the way you're talking to them, articulate yourself, etc.
Do you try to find out who you're competing against?
You always do. They don't always want to give it up.
Yeah.
Look, again, fine line on how you ask that question. You can sometimes look like a desperate ex-girlfriend if you're asking those questions straight off the bat. But I think in the listing presentation, you should always expect that they're meeting with someone. You should always give them credit for doing their due diligence, I think. But then, always ask as well.
Social media, mate. Tell me more about your strategy. Are you big on it? Do you use it to your advantage? Would you prefer to hit the phones for 2 hours?
Yeah.
What do you think the balance is?
It's probably going to sound ridiculous, but even though I am younger, I'm honestly like a dinosaur on those sort of things.
Yeah.
So I am actually trying the last probably 6 months. I've really, really tried. So I've got a social media girl that runs my social media. She was hounding me for the last few months, get more involved, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm starting to do a little bit more sponsoring, more ads, et cetera. But I've always found real estate hasn't changed. It's evolved in different areas, but at the end of the day, you've got to speak to people. You've got to meet them face to face. Yes, there's other ways to find people, I'm sure. I've always found I've been very good on the phone. I've had a lot of good cut through on it. So why change that?
The biggest, I guess, challenge that I've found agents face is when they get busy maintaining the chase, maintaining prospecting, and you'll see them, have a great run, list 4 properties, list 5 properties, and then not have anything for a month and a half. You're doing 80 deals a year. So clearly something is right. How do you maintain the balance of I guess, listening and selling, but also making sure there's enough in your pipeline.
Yeah, you've got to deal with it as it goes, right? So learning, I've been through those yo-yos. If you go through a month, you're like, oh, that was unreal. And then the next month you're like, oh my God, I'm broke. Like there's nothing coming in. So putting things in place that are non-negotiables every day. For example, I block out between 10 and 12 every day. That's a non-negotiable. Those are my prospecting hours. And then again, like in the afternoon, I usually do between sort of 5 and 7, where I find I have a lot more cut through. If there's time in between, I'll do it as well. So those are non-negotiables. 10 appraisals a week, non-negotiables. That was a little bit higher when I was a bit of a junior. That was 12 to 14. Had to scale that back a little bit. The other non-negotiable is 30 connects a day.
I guess the busyness of managing campaigns, is that why you've got your team now?
Yeah.
And that allows you to continue to prospect?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about the transition from being, I guess, less successful with your listings to now being as busy as you are. You mentioned a couple of times that you've learned through that process. What are the one or two things that you would say are the most important thing from an agent that is climbing through the ranks to maintain the fact that they're going to continue to list and sell property?
Yeah, I think know the market that you're in tenfold. Don't try and wing it. You will win your listings on presenting yourself as the expert in that field. Know the square meter rate. Know everything that's sold. Things are so easy these days. Like Domain has on their app, if you pull it up on your iPad, you go to the street that you're on, it has all the sales in their history. You don't even have to go on PDOL. It has it all there. Know it, right? And the other thing is know who you are as the agent. Pick your mark. Who are you? What's your selling points? And convey it well.
If you're 20 to 30, which you are now, I think now, in fact, you're right in the middle. I think a lot of people listen to work-life balance. You have to have work-life balance. It's important. What I'm hearing from you is that you can either do one or two things. You can treat that 20 to 30 period as exactly that. You can treat it as a party. You can treat it as a work-life balance situation, or you can knuckle down and grind, and you've chosen to knuckle down and grind. What would the hours in a week look like for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I struggle with that myself. I think with real estate, if you want to make it, there's no such thing as work-life balance. You try your best, but there's no such thing, especially early on. Your life, apart from work, is gone. So you've got to be okay with that, but you've got to look into the long term. I think for now, at the moment, I'm in a good space in terms of the hours that I work. So typically in around sort of 8:30, sometimes a bit earlier, and then finishing around sort of 7:30, 8, depending if there's a listing presentation that night, might be 8:30.
With success comes, I guess, financial reward, and that allows you to set your life up. Have you been smart about, I mean, you're not always smart from the younger age, but have you learned in terms of that financial security how to set yourself up with the more success you've had?
Oh, you're constantly learning. I think I'm pretty fortunate to have, firstly my co-directors with me that certainly I lean on a lot, but likewise good people around me in my life that have always pointed me in the right direction. As a young guy, you always, can get a chip on your shoulder. You earn some money, you want to do this, you want to do that. But I don't think that should change you as a human. I would hope that anyone you ask, how's Tai, how's he changed? They'd say I'm the same person. I still am humble. I still love my family. Nothing's changed from that perspective. Being financially smart is part of choosing to work hard right now so that you can enjoy life later.
Yeah, I think that's a great message, mate. In fact, speaking of family, I actually bought a car from your grandfather.
Join the list, mate.
At Audi. He was very proud of you, mate, which I can understand. But I think it's great if you can stay grounded, because a lot of agents make this money and then they either waste it or they don't have the right processes in place. Two more questions for you, mate. What would you say the next 5 to 10 years looks like for Tai?
Look, I think next year is probably, I'm hoping, will be my biggest growth year. We're hoping to do, 1.8 million, so will be a pretty big jump. I hope we get there. And then, of course, if you hit that, like anything, you're always chasing someone else and something bigger. So I think for the next 5 to 10 years, it will be hoping to be probably, top 10 agent in Australia, Victoria, sorry. Of course, I'd love to be in Australia.
Let's go Australia, mate. Let's go big.
So I've got some pretty big goals. Setting the team up is really important from a structure point of view. But likewise as well, being happy.
Yeah.
It's all well and good to be making all this money and writing all these numbers and selling all these homes, but just being able to still, although doing all those things, have the fundamentals of being with my family, which I enjoy a lot, still going away, from time to time, and being with my friends as well.
Awesome, mate. What did your progression look like from year 1 to say year 5 in terms of gross fees?
Year 1, I think I did 70K.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Year 5, which was last year, we did 1.2.
So was it like 70, 200?
So 70, 450 to 850 something.
Yep.
850 to 955, 955 to 1.2, and then 1.2 to should be 1.4 this year.
So every year just progressing.
Yeah.
Lastly, we're going to ask this question to every person that comes on. Who would you consider to be the best real estate agent Australia has produced?
James Tosterman by a country mile.
Made so much of your time gifted to us today, and we really appreciate that. I think it's going to be an incredible watch for you over the next 12 months. But as you said, I'd love to see you slot into that top 10 agent in Australia category. You're 25, which is just crazy to think. Your progression in that time frame. Love it, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much for your time. I'm Michael Wood from the agency, Tai Menahem from Buxton, and that is another episode down. The Real Talent Podcast is brought to you by The Agency, Australia's real estate.